Okay. Welcome everybody to the Kosher Pickle Workshop. Very exciting to be here with everybody. See so many familiar faces. I'm going to start by just muting everybody now. All right. Welcome again. We're very excited to have Rabbi Shmuel Marcus, also known as Rabbi Pickle from LA, who will be leading us in a very dynamic workshop. He's also famous. He's a singer of a Jewish band, but today he's Rabbi Pickle. So I think it's very special. We've been having these Zooms in Rochester over the past few months. Very nice turnout for very nice turnouts, and we're going to get started right away. So I'm going to, without further ado, introduce Rabbi Pickle himself.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. Oh, this is fantastic. You have a wonderful group. I've been scrolling through here. You got a lot of people on. Fantastic. Are we ready to jump in and get started? I see you're muted. Okay, everybody's giving me the thumbs up. Ready to go. Before we begin, I have a little disclaimer. Of course, if you have a question or something like that, if you want to peel the garlic or whatever, we'll get to all that in 1 minute. I am a regular Chabad rabbi, the son of a Chabad rabbi right here in sunny Los Alamitos, California. And that is it. One day, we do put on tefillin with people. I go to this elderly Jewish guy and he tells me, Shmuley, you want a pickle? I say, of course. His name is Mo. We go out to the side of his house. He's got these 3 big open barrels. The guy is an old-time pickle maker. They don't make them like this anymore. And I was blown away. A few months later, he tells me, you have this high school program. Why don't you make pickles with the kid? It'd be so fun. So I said, sure. The parents drop off the kids 10 o'clock on a Sunday, 11 o'clock like now, and they're not leaving. I told the parents, what are you doing? You got to come back at 1 o'clock. It's Hebrew school. They said, no, we want to learn how to make pickles. So I said, the parents want to learn how to make pickles? Okay, fine. Why don't we bring the parents back Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, we'll do for the parents. We had about 60 people show up to our little shul on Tuesday night. And our community here can't get a minyan on Yom Kippur. So just to give you a reference, what type of a crowd this was, we're blown away. Long story short, the Valley called us in Florida, and this is about 10 years ago. Since then, this Rabbi Pickle phenomenon has traveled around the world, teaching about kosher pickles, kosher salt, the spirituality, the Kabbalah behind it, how to preserve your wealth, how to preserve your relationships. So it became unbelievable. The real kicker is when the Culinary Institute of America in Manhattan called the yeshiva boys to come teach them how to make kosher pickles, we were just on the floor. It was fantastic. So this is how, long story short, this elderly Jewish man, Mo, gifted us with this kosher pickle workshop. And it's really, I know where a lot of people had questions about the cucumbers, but we use the Persian cucumbers instead of the Kirby's, less water, we'll get to that. But we've put about over 100,000 of these out of their cucumber misery and turned them into good kosher pickles. So we've been on TV in Australia. It's ridiculous on how crazy the kosher pickle, and it's really a testament to the kosher pickle itself. And I want to mention, because you guys are in New York, right? The kosher pickle that we know of, the kosher deli, you know those black and white pictures in Manhattan with the push carts from the 20s and 30s? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So those were illegal. You need a license, you need a permit. You couldn't just have a push cart on the street. So whenever the cops would come, they would call out in Yiddish, the Polizei kommt, and everybody would, run off That's how it was. Nobody spoke English. So this one Jew, he used to grind. He had a grinder, and he would grind grain, horseradish. Anybody here speak Yiddish? Thumbs up for Yiddish. Thumbs down? No. Always thumbs up for Yiddish. Grain, horseradish. Anyways, the cops came, and he didn't get away fast enough. He's now in prison. He needs $50 bail. $50 a lot of money in those days. So his cousin puts up, somehow he had 50 American dollars. He puts up the bail, and as collateral, he gives his cousin this grinder. The guy gets out on bail, skips town, lives a happy life somewhere else, I guess. Maybe to California. In the meantime, Murray is stuck with a grinder, and he's out $50. So his wife, it's always a wife, his wife says, why don't we start grinding grain, start selling, but we'll do it in the kitchen in our little tiny apartment, and we'll sell it door to door, send the kids out. The kids were they're already old enough to work. They were already 12, in the times of the Rambam, times of Maimonides, kids were working at 6 years old. So, it's kids already 10, 11 years old, knocking on doors, selling it. This turned out, long story short, to be Gold's horseradish that's sold all over the U.S., and it's a tremendous multi-million-dollar business. This is why I mention it. At that same time, it might have been the 30s, I don't know exactly the year, there was a rabbi who said, you know what, I'll give a certification. So this is way before gluten-free logo, organic logo, vegan logos. They all ripped that from the Jewish kosher logo, the OU, which he started with Gold's grain in the 30s. That's how kosher certification got started, on a $50 bail that turned, it's an incredible story. So the OU, OK is very popular, it happened right here. And in California, we have the KSA. There's now many out of Chicago. You got the CRC. It's a big business, and there's about 25,000 products a year that go kosher. So as it's really, kosher business has boomed since the 80s. As you know, that's when organic came in. So anyways, so we like to teach when we go to schools, we show the kids the different symbols. Water now has the OU, even though it doesn't need it, but they have studied that if there's a symbol on it, people are buying it. Okay, so this is, unfortunately, of course, Mo passed away at the ripe old age of 92. I did his service, and we decided we're going to continue his memory. He doesn't have kids that saying Kaddish or anything like that. We have a 4-foot pickle that has traveled the U.S., and we have named it Mo the Kosher Pickle. He's looking down from heaven. He gets a special mitzvah every time we do a pickle presentation. And I was here at LAX, and I put this through the TSA, because I do it as a carry-on. So I'm putting it through the TSA machine, and there's 2 TSA guys like, excuse me, whose is this? Come over here. I was like, there's no liquid in here. It's hollow. It's plastic. It's a plastic. No. We want to take a picture with the kosher pickle. I'm sure. I'm standing over there holding the pickle, 2 TSA guys next to me. One of them's taking a picture. Everybody's watching, family walking by. This little kid says, look, Mom, a jalapeno. I was like, a jalapeno? I chased him to the gate. I'm like, guys, sit down. Because this is a very touchy subject, because in California, jalapeno sales are outdoing kosher pickles like 9-1. And it used to be the other way around. So it's a very touchy subject. So I'm like, sit down. This is a kosher pickle. This is not a jalapeno. And we go through the whole thing, kosher salt. She got an education. I missed the flight, but it doesn't matter. Got on the next one. And that's how we ended up teaching people about the kosher pickle. So that's how I got involved with the kosher pickle. The love of pickles. Then it was not Dr. Pickle, it's Rabbi Pickle. So I had to find, what is the spirituality? What is it? What is it that, Columbus, he wanted pickles because it lasted on the ship, brought them to the U.S. or whatever. What is it? What is it about this brine that preserves vegetables? What is it spiritually? So we're going to get to that. We're now ready for kosher, okay? This is what we're going to do now. we're going to introduce the star of the show. We're not using vinegar. If you think we're using vinegar, did someone ask me about vinegar? I'm not sure if it was someone WhatsApp me is like, are we using vinegar? I don't see it on the list. Like vinegar, they started using vinegar 500 years ago, okay?
I confess, I asked.
I was like, vinegar? We're talking 3,500 years ago, how they pickled things in Egypt. When the Jews were in Egypt, the way we pickle things was just with kosher salt. That's it. So the vinegar pickles can last on the shelf, okay? So if you see a vinegar, if you walk into a grocery store, I don't know what you guys have there. Kroger's? No. What was the big chain? ShopRite?
Wegman.
Wegman?
Wegmans is
Okay.
the big
Number one
player in
supermarket in the country.
So you walk in there, and they're going to have your pickles that are non-refrigerated that can last forever, and those have vinegar and other preservatives, and they've been killed, or the Israeli ones that have been canned. You know, that's not what we're doing. We're doing open barrel pickle, exactly as Mo told us. Many times when you have wonderful people, they're like, my grandmother used to make it like this. You put a piece of bread, you put a thing, she went. There's 1,000 ways to make a kosher pickle. We're going to do it exactly as Mo told us. And Mo, he did it like a real Yiddish guy. He says, I go, Mo, how much garlic you put in? Shmuli, shisarayin, yeshisarayin. He has no recipe. It's like getting a recipe from your mother on how to make challah, just a handful. A handful, who's handful? Anyways, so we're going to do Mo's pickles, and we are ready to begin. Number one on the list is your 32-ounce container. Could be glass, plastic. I know we got all those questions. Whatever you want, okay? It's got to be empty. That's the secret to kosher pickles and any business, any relationship. You need to start out with humility. You need to be open. If you're like, I already know how to make pickles. I don't know what this guy in California is telling me about garlic. I know I have to peel it. If you already know everything, it's not going to work. You need to be open to wonderful things. So the empty vessel is really underrated. People are like, oh, that's not even on the list. But actually an empty vessel, an open heart, an open mind, that is critical to making kosher pickles. There's 5 steps to making kosher pickles. We'll go over them right now. Interestingly, for those who study Ethics of the Fathers in the summer, we just did yesterday chapter 1. The way Ethics of the Fathers starts is with the 5 steps to being a student of the Torah. The 5 steps to starting a business, the 5 steps to being in a great relationship. Number 1, Moses gave the Torah to Joshua, gave the Torah to the elders, to the prophets, to the men of the great assembly. Those are the 5. So the Rebbe explains, Moses represents humility. Number 1, you need to have humility. Joshua represents persistence, consistency. Try again. If you fail, you try again. He was always in that tent. He was there. Zakanim, the elders, you need to have common sense. Number 3 is common sense. There's a lot of things. Should I peel the garlic? A lot of common sense. You need that. Then goes the prophets, the spirituality. Why is it? Why does salt preserve things? What is it about salt that we could use in our own lives? The spirituality behind it. And number 5, the men of the great assembly were tasked with making Judaism what it is today after the destruction of the temple. Because basically, we were bringing the sacrifices, and that's it. Who made Kiddush, Havdalah, all the practical lighting of the menorah, the Jewish things we have today in the post-destruction of the temple are from the men of the great assembly. And the Rebbe says their genius was, and their task, adaptability. So these are your 5 steps to making kosher pickles. Making any business, got to have adaptability. And now we start with the vessel. We're ready to go? Everyone has their vessel. We're going to start with 2 cups of water. For those that are writing down, this has been pre-measured to save time. We have a lot of saving time techniques. We're going to pour it in. That's right. Okay, 2 cups water. With things in life and with pickle making in particular, There's certain things that are exact, vital, critical, and then there's certain things that are to taste, for fun, not really necessary, but fun, okay? So the critical aspect in kosher pickle making is the 2 cups water and the 2 tablespoons kosher salt, okay? So I'm gonna bring out the star of the show. And when we do them live, you know, back in the olden days, we would have everybody, you know, give a real round of applause for kosher salt, because this is the secret to kosher pickles. Why is kosher salt called kosher salt? If table salt is kosher, ice cream salt is kosher, Himalayan salt is kosher. Why is kosher salt called kosher salt? Very good. I see some people nodding. This is, I know there's kids on here. It's a little gross, but the Jews, not only do we have to eat animals that have split hoofs and chew their cuds, we also have to slaughter them and also salt the meat before it's ready to be fit for use. The word kosher means fit for use. It was interesting because I went to get a coffee this morning and we have a Ralph's that has like a Starbucks in it. So I said, you know, can I get a Americano? So the guy's like, are you the rabbi that's coming to give the kosher certification on the new equipment, to bless the new equipment? I said, nope, I'm just getting a $4 coffee, that's it. And he says, is kosher mean blessed? I said, no, kosher doesn't mean blessed. A lot of people think kosher means holy, clean. It actually means fit for use, which is very interesting. So you could use it in relationships. Some people, they will bring you down. You're not going to be able to lift them up. And some people, they lift you up, you can lift them up. So in Hebrew, so I asked the rabbi if there's a Hebrew-speaking crowd. I'll translate. The Hebrew word for forbidden food is asur, tied down. Forbidden and tied down is the same word in Hebrew. Permissible foods are mutar, untied. So if you look at it, it's amazing. This coffee that I got, it lifted me up. I was able to take these Sumatran beans and just lift them up and have a great day with them. Other foods will bring you down. You cannot lift them up. So it's mutar, untied, or asur, tied down. So kosher is actually fit for use. Is it elevatable? So this is kosher salt. So what they do is, in the olden days, in times of the Bible, people thought, instead of going to the gym, you know, you're going to pay money. I know gyms are probably closed now. In California, they close the gyms. Instead of going to a gym, you drink the blood of an ox. It's gross, or a shark. And this way, you get really strong. So number one, it doesn't work. You do need to do those push-ups. Number two, it's gross. So the Bible says Jews are not allowed to drink blood. Okay, so what do? We slaughter the animal, and then we put kosher salt on the meat. You wait 10 minutes. The white, coarse salt turns completely red as it pulls and draws out the blood. Then you do hadacha, which is washing it off, and now your meat is fit for use. It's been kosher. It's been made fit for use. So since this salt, which is so, look how thick this salt is. Look how coarse that is. Since this is used to make beef kosher, it got the name kosher salt. Now the Yiddish deli guys had a ton of kosher salt. So when they were making their kosher pickles, they used this exact salt. I'm going to bring this up here. I don't want to knock it over. Here's the key. We noticed that whenever people did heaping, it came out too salty, they couldn't eat it. So you want it to go level. Shake it back and forth, or use your finger, whatever is classier. That's one. And we're going to do the other one. Do not do heaping. This has got, if it's heaping, you're not going to be able to eat it. Two. Done. Our critical part, now we can breathe, has been done. We got our 2 cups water to our 2 tablespoons, a tad less of kosher salt. Looking mighty fine. Okay. Next is the pickling spice. I saw some people earlier were showing the pickling spice. Yeah, you can get them. Where do you get it? You get it probably at your supermarket or any sort of market. It comes already pre-mixed. I asked Mo, I said, why don't we make it ourselves? Said, you don't want to waste time with it. You don't want to waste time trying to make your own spices. You get it pre-mixed. It's basically coriander, peppercorns, there's cloves, there's dried chilies, bay leaves, dry dill, dry mustard seed. So if you ever notice, it's just for the rabbi only. Everybody else don't have to listen. There's kosher for Passover pickles. I always wondered, what exactly is the difference? The difference is the mustard seed. The mustard seed is not good for Passover. Anywho, moving on. So you have your bay leaves, your dried dill. It comes already pre-mixed. It's a beautiful, there's actually cinnamon bark in here. Really nice. It's not sweet at all. There's a cinnamon bark right there. It's a very fantastic. Good for pickling meat, everything. It's really good. Okay. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of the pickling spice. Remember, if you're running low on pickling spice, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. This doesn't have to be exact. You want to put in a little more, that's good also. Here's a little trick that we do here at the Kosher Pickle Factory. Whenever it comes to doing a mitzvah, you always have to go that extra mile, put a ribbon on it, okay? So what I did was I just went out and got a bunch of really nice dried chili peppers, and I always put 1 in. For looks, it looks nicer, it adds to it, okay? And then I have bay leaves. You probably have those in your kitchen right now. Take a nice bay leaf, a whole one, drop it in. Also for looks, it's gotta look good. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is dissolve the salt, not by using boiling water, because then you're gonna end up canning your pickles. And we're doing open barrel pickling. So we need to make it dissolve. So we've discovered a very easy technique. If you have a lid, you could put on the lid. Okay? The lid is only on so it doesn't spill. And then you kind of give it a swirl. There you go. And swirl it the other way, and it's going to dissolve, all right? Takes about 10 seconds. And this way you're using cold water, dissolving your pickles, your brine, your salt. There we go. Okay, I got about 5 seconds left. While we're doing that, remember, when you're dissolving your salt, making your brine, you see now it looks like a brine. Now we're looking like a brine. Think for a moment, this is the environment that your pickles are going to be created in. So think for yourself, what sort of environment is your home, What type of environment? Look around. Are there Jewish books? It was very interesting that the Rebbe told people to have Jewish books in the house, Jewish artifacts. I remember this was on the door. It's like, even if you don't read those books, at least the environment, you're making an environment. It says in Hayoim Yoim, it's one of the Rebbe's early works. It says, a Jew has to make his own environment. You move out to a small city, a big city, wherever it is, your home, people got to walk in and say, wow, this is a Yiddish home. This is fantastic. So that's our brine. And mine is ready. What do you guys say? Look on the bottom, see if you see salt. If you don't see salt, you're good to go. Now we open it up, and we're ready to make pickles. That is great. I wouldn't shake it, more of a swirl. Shaking, sometimes, people have issues with that. All right, that is great. While I see some people are still dissolving their salt, I just want to tell you that I spent 16 years working on the Kabbalistic understanding of salt. And I'll give it to you in 30 seconds. Number 1, there's a medrash on the Bible. Second day of creation, God separates the waters. Part of the waters become heaven, and some of the waters become the ocean. And remember, this was one group. So it's like some went to the front of the bus, some went to the back of the bus. And the lower waters complained to God. They're like, what? They get to be up there with the angels. Everybody, when they pray, they look up. They're the heavens, so fancy. Look at us. Now we're just the ocean, the depths. Submarines can't even reach to some of our depths. It's just like we're unknown, even though I personally like the ocean. But they were kind of upset. So God says, okay, I will give you a gift. Just like the moon was upset that it was smaller than the sun, so it was gifted the stars. I'm going to gift you salt. And salt will be used in the temple. That's the end of the conversation. The water walks away happy. But it really has a lot of questions to it. Number one, on Friday night, you notice people, they cut their challah, then they dip it in salt. Why do we dip our salt? I remember as a kid, I asked my dad, I said, Dad, why every Friday night and Saturday you dip the challah in the salt? So he did something very interesting, and only later, when I was a Chabad rabbi myself, that I figured out this technique. He answered me without really answering the question. He said, well, in the temple, whenever they brought a sacrifice, lo yisaj b'melach, you always had to have salt on the altar. And our table is like an altar, so we have a meal, we have salt. That did not answer the question. So now it just moved the question to the temple. Why, whenever they brought a sacrifice, did they have to have salt? But he didn't answer that. So he knew exactly how to do that. So I had to find this book. You're familiar with Chabad, founder of Chabad, Rabbi Shmuel Marcus of Liadi. He wrote a book, The Tanya. Very popular. It's a self-help, self-guide. But he also wrote another book called Likutei Torah, and it's philosophy on the weekly Torah portion. Tremendous Chabad philosophy. And he has something on that salt. In short, he says that salt is humility. And we'll get to that in a second. That's why it's number one in kosher pickle making, humility. It has no taste of its own, but yet it brings out the flavors in avocado, in chicken soup, in your brisket, in your everything. Salt is really, if you're the type of person that works behind the scenes and everyone else is getting the accolades and really you're doing all the work, you're salt. And you know what that feels like. It's humility and it's empowering. It's considered the secrets of the Torah. This beautiful ability to, like with pickles, the reason why they don't go bad in a salty brine, because basically, in short, I see there's kids here, there's bad bacteria that ruin cucumbers, but they cannot exist in the salty brine. So there's certain negative qualities that we each have, but if we have this brine, this study of the secrets of the Torah, or the Torah itself, it doesn't allow those negative qualities to fester. So it's a, when someone brings a gift to the temple, oh, look, I'm bringing the ox, I'm bringing this, I'm having a big meal. A little humility is needed. So always a little humility, a little salt. Why is salt so fantastic? Well, we're about to see, okay? So already at the halfway mark. Kosher salt, now we know, is humility. If you have too much humility, you ruined it. Too little, obnoxious. You need to have exactly the right amount. So we're going to use 2 cups water, 2 tablespoons, a drop less of humility, salt. Now we have our pickling spice pre-made. You could put in 1, 2. I like to go with 2, a full dried pepper and a bay leaf. Okay. Now we are ready to be making our pickles. We have our brine, and the way Mo used to do it is fantastic. I would bring him the brine. Instead of using a salameter or some sort of scientific instrument, he would dip his index finger right into the brine. Ah, this is right. You need a little more salt. Very scientific. I do not have that quality, and Mo of blessed memory does. Okay, so we're going to choose our Persian cukes. Why don't we use Kirby's? Kirby's are ungeblosen. They retain a lot of water, and they're kind of blown up with the water. So if you don't know exactly how to make pickles, you're doing it for your first time, or you're doing workshops, Mo suggests using the skinny Persian cucumbers. Sometimes it's called the minis, whatever they're called at your local produce section, okay? So this is the skinnier, the better, less chance of issues. We do have a 75% success rate. 25% people say, I don't know, it's too salty, it's the dip. So we really don't know, and we'll get to that at the end exactly. We're making our brine, making our pickles, and then we have pickle post-op, what to do with it when you get there. I put in measure ground cinnamon. Okay, I saw something there, but it disappeared. So sometimes they're too big to fit into our little containers. So we invented a very, very, very easy to follow technique. It's called snapping the pickle in half. Just snap it in half, and then it's gonna fit much better, and drop it in. There we go. I'm gonna do another one. Another one, I don't know if I can put it up here. Is that gonna block the camera, or is that fine? How's that? That's fine. Okay, it's gonna snap it in half, put it in. So do not let it come up past the, about a half an inch from the top, because you still gotta put in your garlic, you still gotta put in your dill, got a lot of stuff still coming in. So don't overstuff it, no reason for it. Snap it, okay. And yeah, I'm gonna stop around there. Yeah. People have a very good question. If the tops are floating, I know you're asking this question already. If the top is floating out of the brine, is it okay? Yes, it's okay, because number one, as long as there's part of the pickle in the brine, it'll infuse the entire pickle. And I tell people, when you study Torah, when you have that 2 tablespoons of Torah in your life, you don't got to do it all day. Just 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever it is, that will infuse the entire day. It's magical. So if there's one thing you take away from this pickle making, besides awesome pickles, is to infuse a little Torah study, secrets of the Torah, a little Chassidus, just 10 minutes a day, it'll infuse the entire day. It's fantastic. Okay, we have our pickles sitting here in the brine. The clock is already ticking. We got to move on to my favorite, personal favorite part, garlic. This is usually the part where I tell people, for those who don't like garlic and they don't want to put garlic in, to get out. You're in the wrong place. Garlic is so much part of the kosher dill. It's fantastic. But there's some people who don't like garlic, and we have to love everyone. So we do love them, but you only put in one. If you're anti-garlic, just put in one. Do we have to peel it? Good question. No, you do not have to. If you did, that's extra work on your part. God bless you. But you do not have to, not necessary. So here's a garlic clove. And I suggest 3. That has been our middle of the road. Maimonides says, go middle of the road, okay? So some people who don't like garlic, they'll put in 1. It's a garlic spectrum, okay? You find yourself somewhere in the garlic spectrum. If you love garlic, put in 5, okay? But I'm going middle of the road, 3. So you could do 1 to 5. This is up to you. This is to taste, non-essential. I'm gonna go with 3. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why not? Put them in, okay? There we go. We got 3 in there. They're in. One thing on garlic, because every time I see garlic, I'm reminded of this story. Beautiful story, especially for the kids. In the olden days, there was a shtetl. Everybody knows what a shtetl is from Eastern Europe. It's a...
Were they peeled, the garlic cloves?
You do not have to peel the garlic, no.
Thank you.
They're gonna fall off. You'll notice when you buy a nice batamka pickles, you'll see all the shells on the bottom. The skins come off by themselves. So if you did sit there and peel it, you know, I know there's one mother, we did one for kids. She sat there, she peeled every one and she sliced them so the flavors come out. It's added love, and the kosher pickle reciprocates that love right back to her, but it's not necessary. Now, there was a story where this old shtetl, they were so poor, and I remember this is true. The parable is not true, it's just a parable, but this part of it is true. I asked my grandfather, of blessed memory, I said, when they say they were so poor in the shtetl, what do you mean? He said, Shmuley, some guys had newspapers with ribbon as shoes. That was their shoes. That's how poor they were. So this last beachfront property in Eastern Europe, shtetl town, is looking out at a small island about a mile out, full of diamonds, rubies, just glistening in the sun. So they swim out. Most people didn't make it, but one little kid made it, 11 years old, Philip. He gets there, he's exhausted, the sun is baking on him. A girl revives him, takes him to a restaurant, goes to the restaurant, orders, of course, kosher, scoops up diamonds from the floor, puts it down, and says, keep the change. They look at him. This is not our currency. This is all over the floor. Our currency is salt and garlic. And it's not that big of a stretch. There was a time when the Roman soldiers were paid either in gold or salt. It was the same price. That's how you have the word salary. It's from the times when they paid the soldiers in salt. The history buffs know that. So it's not so crazy. Oh my gosh. So he starts shoveling diamonds. He starts making his garlic patch and he's working hard. Eventually he does very well, buys the restaurant, marries the girl. But when he's 88 years old, he realizes, oh my, I have this poor family with newspapers around their shoes waiting for me to bring back the treasures. So he packs up his treasures, gets on his canoe that he bought. Then he comes back. For some reason, he leaves the girl. Never understood that part of the story. Comes back. Everybody's still waiting for him. And he says, guys, our worries are over. I've got garlic for everyone. And they say, Philip, you brought us garlic? What about the diamonds? So it's a bit sad, but it's a parable because when we are souls in heaven, we look down on this earth. Wow, look, I can make kiddush, I can put on tefillin, I can have a mezuzah, I can visit the ill if they let us in. You know, Corona now, they don't let anybody visit. Now we can light a menorah, whatever it is. These are diamonds, but when we get here, they say, you know how you pay your bills? $48. I said, you know what, I'll do a kaddish for you. I'll do a tefillin. Like, no, we want $48. So we get busy, and we come up to heaven, and we're like, well. But the good news is, this kid, Philip, whenever you go to the beach here in California, you come back with sand in your shoes, in your pants, everywhere you come back with sand. So when he came back from that island, he had so many diamonds in his French cuffs that he was able to pay for the entire town to live happily ever after. And these are the mitzvot, the good deeds that we do without realizing it. Just saying, good morning, hey, you look great. That's a wonderful shirt. Oh, that's a beautiful hat. Yes, thank you. From Larry Blum. And just giving people these simple gifts are tremendous mitzvot. So that's, every time I look at garlic, I always get refocused. What exactly? Are we really spending our entire lives to collect garlic in our garage? Or the real diamonds, precious moments we could spend? That's it. That's our garlic story. All right. We're in the last 5 minutes here. We're going to move on to the fresh dill. How many of you could smell this? Here. Unmute smell for a second. Here. This is amazing, aromatic, fresh dill, okay? So, as mentioned, I'm going to take one sprig. As mentioned, you already have fresh dill. You have dry dill in your pickling spice. So this is not part of the brine. This is just going to be placed on top, part of a aromatic, making it, you know, the kosher dill, so to speak. We did before this pandemic and no travel, we did a show in Boise, Idaho. Rabbi Lifshitz is there. He said, yeah, we're going to have about 30 people. So we pack up Mo, we go. And he rented a public school. 200 people showed up at the door. 200 people. It was about 30 Jews and 170 non-Jews. And we're starting in 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, I don't have enough pickling spice. I don't have enough. What are we going to do? We go to the store, and they didn't sell pickling spice, but they had coriander, peppercorns, bay leaves, and we just made our own pickling spice. Not recommended, but adaptability, the fifth part of kosher pickle making. Anshe Knesset Gedola, adaptability. So we had to adapt the situation. And then they didn't have enough fresh dill. So we didn't use fresh dill, and nothing happened. So it's not a vital part. It is a beautiful addition. You know, whenever you do a mitzvah, you could do bare minimum, or you could put a ribbon on it. And that's our job, is to put a ribbon on it. So that's why, unless there's, 170 people at the door and you don't have enough, you want to add your dill, okay? I'm going to place it on gently and lovingly on top. And that is going to end the second part, which is making of the pickles. So we'll just do a quick round of applause that our batch is now up and ready for the third part, which is pickle post-op, what exactly you should do with it from now until it's ready. Because it's going to take 3 days. It's not going to be ready for dinner tonight. This is not Instacart. This is not instant. This is not, there's certain things in life that are instant. And certain things like 18-year Macallan, kosher pickles, take 18 years, takes 3 days, takes time. And that's maturity. You know, kids, when you go to a restaurant, listen to this for a second. You ever go to a restaurant in the olden days in California, they used to allow restaurants to be open. You go there, kosher place, and you're really, really full. And I know the owner comes over, Shmuel, you want another steak? I'm like, no, I can't. I literally cannot. I'm full. Then something magical happens. He brings out the dessert menu, and he's got this unbelievable chocolate dessert. And of course, there's room for that. And it's magical. How did that happen? He's offering me a steak. I was full, which is true. And then he brings out the dessert menu, and there's room for it. So scientifically, there's two parts of the brain, one for salty foods and one for sugary foods. And you'll notice that. You'll eat a ton of sugary foods, and you're like, oh, done with sugar, but then it's salty foods. This is documented in the Bible. Isaac tells his son Esau, go make for me foods that I like. And it's the salty and the sweet. And it says, since Isaac was created in the image of God, we're all created in the image of God, God has this salty, sweet, and so food comes in two ways. So God enjoys the service of the sweet, the righteous, but he also enjoys the service of the salty, the struggle, the ones who have a hard time reading and they're struggling through life. There's two parts. There's the struggle, and then there's the easy street, sweetness. What's the bulk of the meal? The struggle. So whenever we think about kosher pickles, we think about the struggle. It takes days, takes time, not so easy. In life, you have two things. One, things that come really easy to you. Great at math. Oh, I love numbers. Yeah, let's only talk about numbers. I'm great at numbers. Then there's that phone call you don't want to make because it's hard to do. The real muscle is made with kosher pickles. It's that phone call you don't want to do, working on things you're not great at, struggling, pushing through. That's the secret of the kosher pickle. Okay, we're now ready for pickle post-op. This is what we're going to do. Most important, for anyone who put their lid on, nicht gut. We're going to remove the lid. We're doing open barrel pickling. So there we go, open, leave it. Now, we're going to put it, it's beautiful Sunday morning. We're going to put it in our kitchen next to the sun on the windowsill for 24 hours. So you're leaving it in the sun for 24 hours. I know you're asking a question. I'm scared. My kid, my cat, my rat, everybody's going to come in there. So then put a cheesecloth or paper towel with a rubber band, but it needs to breathe. Fine. 24 hours in the sun, it's going to jumpstart it. You're going to see it's going to start turning. The color is going to get a little brown. Fantastic. Then you can put on the lid. So we're talking Monday night. Monday night before you go to sleep, put on the lid. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. Put on the lid, put it in your refrigerator for another 24 hours. So we're now at Tuesday evening dinner is when you do your taste. You open it up. We're going to do the blessing on pickles to conclude it. You open it up and you do a taste. Cut off a little piece. If it's too salty, there's going to be three options. One is it's way too salty, you spit it out. Then you're going to have to dump the whole thing, start over, use kosher pickle principle number 2, consistent, persistent, try again. Okay. Another option is it's perfect. Enjoy it. It'll last about 2 weeks. Great. No shelf life. That's a problem. Number 3 option is it just tastes like a cucumber. It sat in water. Nothing happened. It didn't jump start. If it didn't jump start, then you got to start the first 24 hours over. Maybe it was cloudy. Maybe somebody cranked up the air conditioning in your kitchen to 68. I don't know what happened. Put it back in the sun. Let it jump start again for 24 hours and then repeat, and then you're good to go. that is, in a nutshell, the pickle post-op. So we have time now for a few questions, but let's just do a round of applause for Kosher Pickles. You guys are great. I see a lot of people are doing that with the thumbs up. You guys are awesome. Well, Rabbi, how are you?
Thank God, very good. This is amazing. This is really a treat.
Should we kick it off with the blessing of the kosher pickle before we take a question?
Please, I actually put in those that bought the kits from us. I put in the bracha, the blessing. Talk about the bracha for a minute.
Let's do the blessing on the kosher pickle. I'll do this. It's a blessing for fruit of the ground. Pri ha'adama. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'adama.
Amen. Amen. So, Rabbi Pickle, got a question. Yeah. I'm not sure if you touched upon it, but how did it become a Jewish delicacy? Did you mention how it became a Jewish staple of our diet, pickles?
Yeah. So it's very interesting how it happened. In Manhattan, in the U.S., they did have this concept of pickling things, of course, before we got here. But the style, for example, matzah balls, that was created to monetize the leftover broken pieces of matzah from the Manischewitz matzah factory. So matzah balls. You have kreplach, kneidlach. These are Polish, Eastern European foods that the Jews brought over and became very popular in our daily diet. Another thing that the Eastern European Jews used to do was pickle cucumbers with kosher salt, garlic, dill, this style. So the what I call, and I got terrible feedback because I called it a goyish pickle. I didn't mean it in a negative way. I just meant it in the non-Jewish pickle, the sweet pickle that has sugar. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I don't allow it in my house, but I mean, I'm not going to judge anyone if they like a sweet pickle. But that is not what we brought over from Eastern Europe. We brought the deli pickle. That style was from Eastern Europe. Americans weren't doing it at the time. To answer your question, so we brought over that deli pickle. We brought over the certain kneidlach, matzah balls. When people see these type of foods, it triggers a tremendous Jewish feeling. Gefilte fish. These things, it's just tremendous how it worked.
We have a question from the.
Someone wants to reuse the brine.
Oh, can you?
You cannot reuse the brine because your salt water are no longer exactly the same because you have already infused those 4 or 5 cucumbers and you ate them, so you took it out. So what do you do with it? Because we don't want to waste. You could marinate chicken. It's fantastic. Use it to marinate chicken cutlets and then put it on the grill. Very good idea. Someone else had another thing, but it's going too fast. Can you read the comments if someone has a question, Rabbi?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that was me?
Sorry, the question was, this is from one of the great scholars in Rochester. If someone's in a real pickle, what's the deeper meaning of being in a pickle, and what then is the way out?
I don't know. I don't know the spiritual significance of that term, being in a pickle, but I have a interesting take on why humility is so empowering and why the waters, when they were split, they were happy with this gift of salt. Like, why couldn't they be gifted, mermaids or something, or sharks, or give them something else? Why were they gifted salt, and that salt is going to be used in the temple? It's a very, very interesting conversation. And here's the kicker. Humility is not worthlessness. It is not worthlessness. It's actually empowering. it actually says in the Talmud that before you pray, you have to have humility. And then the Talmud explains that it means joy, that you can't come to God and do your prayers and ask for what you need in a bad mood. Nobody likes that. I want you to be happy. So humility is actually happiness. It's honesty. When King David stood in front of Goliath, he had humility. But he was there to take down Goliath. And he said, everybody was scared to fight Goliath. And we all have a Goliath in our life. And everybody's scared to make that phone call. Everybody's scared of that guy. King David said, of course Goliath is 10 times my size. But I'm not fighting Goliath. God is fighting Goliath. I'm just showing up with my 5 pebbles. So if we look at ourselves as our strength is going to take down Goliath, we're going to pickle the pickles, it's all me, then that may or may not work. But if you see it as God using you as his arms and legs to bring the chicken soup to the old lady across the street, if you see yourself as the vessel, just the conduit for God's power and God's blessing, you kind of get out of the way. That is the secret of the kosher pickle. You can do great things and you feel empowered, like Abraham tells God, I'm dust and ashes, but then he goes and argues with God. So there's power here. Before I want to close it out, before, if there's one more question, no more questions, or where are we at?
One question was, if I can't get Persian cucumbers, can I use other types of cucumbers?
Yeah, you can use the Kirby. Traditionally, you use the Kirby. It's just a little more difficult. You got to be a little more exact. So for workshops, we use Persian cubes. But you can't use like the English cucumbers or the regular cucumbers. It's got to be the pickling cucumbers, Kirby's, or Persian cubes.
Another question was, if they want to make the spice mix, how much cinnamon to put in? 2 tablespoons, I guess.
Oh my gosh. You're making your own pickling spice? Put in a few chunks of cinnamon bark. Do not grind the cinnamon. No. Cinnamon bark. Cinnamon bark is what's in here. Peppercorns, coriander. It's mostly coriander. Coriander, bay leaves.
All right. I think we have, was there any last questions we missed?
Yeah.
We'll have to end it with a blessing. That the power from the kosher pickle that went from push carts on the Lower East Side, that ended up in storefronts, ended up in national chains, turned into a multi-million-dollar business. This is similar to the Chabad story. Chabad came to the US in the 40s, and in the 1950s, the Rebbe was handing out flyers on the steps of the Brooklyn library, and then we got a storefront, and then we got 5,000 institutions around the world. So it's literally the story of the kosher pickle, very similar to Chabad. And what really is a secret of your Chabad rabbi is his humility, that he knows it's the Rebbe's blessings. He's just a servant of God. He's allowing great things to happen and just not getting in the way. So no Chabad rabbi really takes credit for coming to a town and making beautiful programs. They just show up with their 5 pebbles, their little thing, and God does it. So that's a real beautiful thing for your life, that try to do something that you think you can't and see if God can do it. You just show up and see if it could happen. So showing up is the secret of the kosher pickle. And that concludes the amazing workshop.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Pickle, aka Rabbi Shmueli. And thank you everyone for joining us. Stay tuned for more Zooms and more fun, exciting presentations. I want to thank the Chabad of Cary community that joined us as well. Your Rabbi Cutler unfortunately had a funeral this morning, but he set this up in advance. So I hope you enjoyed joining us in Rochester. All the best, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday, and we'll see you hopefully very soon. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Thanks, Rabbi Shmueli.
Thank you. Fabulous program.
People